I was halfway through my second glass of champagne when I heard him say it. "Oh, that's my son. He's just a security guard." It was my dad's voice, smooth, dismissive, carrying that sharp edge he used whenever he talked about me, people he wanted to impress. I didn't even need to turn around and know he was standing with his little circle of old business acquaintances, the kind of people who still wore cufflinks to weddings. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Not a security officer. Not he works in security. Not even just my name, just a security guard. The way he said it, you'd think I was a janitor at a gas station who occasionally checked IDs for fun. I froze with the glass halfway to my lips. The laughter and music around me suddenly muffled. My dad chuckled at something one of the guests said in response. I caught a fragment. "Oh, so you check bags at the mall?" Followed by polite snickering. I turned my head just enough to catch his face. He was smiling, his hand loosely holding a tumbler of whiskey, leaning slightly toward his friends in that relaxed, confident way he reserved for when he felt he was in his element. My mom was nowhere nearby. She knew better than to hover around him when he was performing for a crowd. I forced a smile and took a sip, my mind already spiraling. He had no idea what my job actually entailed, or maybe he did, but he didn't care. Security wasn't prestigious. It wasn't something he could brag about over cigars. And in my father's world, if it didn't make him look good, it wasn't worth acknowledging. I told myself to let it go. It was my sister's wedding. This was her day, not the time for family drama. But deep down, I felt a familiar burn in my chest, that mix of humiliation and anger I'd been swallowing for years. Backstory and resentment. Growing up, my dad was the kind of man who measured worth by titles and paychecks. He wasn't cruel in the traditional sense. He didn't hit us, didn't scream much, but he had a way of making you feel small without raising his voice. He built his own small but successful real estate firm from scratch, and by the time I was in high school, he was obsessed with image. Our family had to look a certain way. My sister went to an Ivy League school on his dime, and my younger brother was being groomed for law school before he even hit puberty. I, on the other hand, wasn't academic enough for him. I wanted to join the police force since I was a kid. I liked the idea of being in the field, of protecting people. But my dad thought cops were glorified traffic wardens and said security work was what people do when they have no other options. I didn't go the police route in the end. Not exactly. I started in private security, but not the kind that stands at the door of a nightclub checking IDs. I worked my way into specialized contracts, high-risk sites, and eventually joined a federal contractor providing protective services for government facilities. The pay was solid, the work dangerous, and the responsibilities huge. But it wasn't doctor, lawyer, CEO, so in his eyes, it was nothing. We spoke less and less over the years. When we did talk, it was superficial. He never asked what I was working on, and I couldn't tell him even if he did. A lot of it was classified, but maybe that was the point. In his mind, no news meant nothing important. Life and security. The truth is, my job was a lot more than standing around. My team and I handled threat assessments, controlled access to sensitive areas, and sometimes accompanied high-profile individuals who were at risk. We carried firearms, wore body armor, and trained regularly for situations I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. The reality was we were the last line of defense for people who couldn't protect themselves, and I was damn proud of what I did. About a month before my sister's wedding, I got word of an upcoming assignment. It was high stakes, protecting a visiting diplomat whose presence in the city had stirred up credible threats. It would be public, and if anything went wrong, it'd be on the evening news within minutes. It wasn't the kind of job I could tell my family about beforehand. Operational security comes first. But part of me, the petty, hurt part, thought about how poetic it would be if my father somehow found out about it after the fact. Wedding aftermath and boiling point. At the reception, I tried to shake off what I'd overheard. I danced with my sister, gave my toast, smiled for pictures. But the sting lingered. Later that night, as guests mingled near the bar, my dad introduced me to an old family friend, a guy named Ron who ran a chain of luxury car dealerships. "This is my son," he said. "He works security." He smirked a little. "Keeps the riffraff out." Ron gave me that patronizing grin, the kind you give to a kid showing you their crayon drawing. Hey, we all gotta start somewhere, right? I smiled tightly. Yeah, something like that. That was the moment I decided I wasn't just going to hope my dad respected me one day. I was going to make him choke on his words. The big event. 2 weeks later, I was standing in a secured parking garage beneath one of the city's tallest hotels. Our detail had been briefed. The visiting diplomat would be attending a public charity gala in the ballroom upstairs. Multiple credible threats had been intercepted. Vague chatter online about disrupting the event by any means necessary. The plan was tight. Multiple entry points secured. Plainclothes operatives in the crowd. Emergency response teams staged nearby. My position was at the ballroom entrance with another agent. We were both in formal attire but armed beneath our jackets. Halfway through the night, a commotion erupted at the far end of the ballroom. Guests started moving toward the exits, murmurs turning into panicked voices. My earpiece crackled. Unit 2, we have an armed individual in the service hallway. I moved fast. Down the corridor, I saw a man in a staff uniform holding something metallic. He spotted me, raised the object, a pistol, and shouted something I couldn't make out over the noise. Training took over. I drew, issued commands, and when he didn't comply, I closed the distance with my partner. He was disarmed and restrained within seconds. Backup swarmed in. No shots fired, no injuries. The diplomat never even knew how close it had been. But the media sure did. One of the reporters outside had caught the tail end of the takedown on camera. By morning, the footage was everywhere. The next day, my phone blew up. Friends from high school, old coworkers. Even people I barely knew sent me links to news clips. The video showed me and my partner subduing the suspect with calm precision, my face clear as day. The captions read, "Security team stops armed man at gala for visiting diplomat." By noon, it had hit national news. Comment sections were full of people praising our quick action. Some even called us heroes. Then came the family texts. My aunt, OMG, is this you? So proud. My cousin, bro, you're famous. Your dad must be freaking out. And then my dad. Just one message. Saw the news. Impressive work. That was it. No apology. No acknowledge of his past comments. But I didn't need it. Because I knew. He knew. Every single person he downplayed me to had probably seen that video. A week later, I visited my parents' house to drop off a gift for my mom. My dad was in his study, the TV muted on a news channel. When I walked in, he glanced up and gave me that tight smile. "You made the family proud," he said, as if it were a fact and not a complete reversal of everything he'd ever implied about my job. I just nodded, glad I could help keep the riffraff out. His face twitched just a little, and I savored it. I didn't take this job for recognition. I do it because I'm good at it, because it matters, because it keeps people safe. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel damn good to watch my father's carefully curated social image take a hit when people realizes just a security guard, son was a guy who stopped an armed attacker on national television. Respect doesn't always come when you want it. But sometimes, when it does, it's loud enough for the whole world to hear. And now, every time my dad starts telling someone what I do, I can't help but smile, because he never says just anymore. Please subscribe my channel for more video.